Now, speaking of the media, it's time to take a look at how those top stories are playing out in the media today. And for that, I'm joined by James Creedon. Hi, James.
Hi, Olivia.
Now, we're starting with the renewal of what we've called a bromance, romance between bros, between Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump.
That's right, of course. That word was sort of summoned up to describe the kind of very affectionate body language between the two men at various moments over the past couple of years. And then it sort of cooled down quite a bit. You can see here this tweet going back to November 2008. Is the bromance dead? Macron patted Trump on the arm at the conclusion of their remarks, but he did not reciprocate. So everybody was sort of eager to see if the body language would be sort of warmed up again at this G7 summit. TJ Holmes here of ABC in the US says, you were about to see scenes of awkward hugs between President Trump and President Macron ahead of their press conference. Indeed, cue awkward hug did indeed happen. There was a lot of kind of backslapping and various kind of the body language was typically sort of a little bit over the top, and there was a bit of a hand wringing as well at the end. In any case, it did lead to many to say quite a bromance at the joint press conference. But there was some substance behind it as well, of course, Olivia, because we did see that a meeting was brokered between the Iranian President Rouhani and Donald Trump. We'll have to see if that, of course, happens in reality. Macron also supported Trump in dealing with China over trade. There was some substance behind it. This is Bloomberg's take on things, how Macron pulled a fast one on Trump with a gamble over Iran. They have an interesting kind of behind-the-scenes report on it here. In a break in the summit on Sunday afternoon, cameras caught British Prime Minister Boris Johnson congratulating his French host on his handling of a tense dinner the night before. Well played, Johnson told President Macron, who said, I'm not finished yet. In other words, there was a lot of sort of diplomacy going on behind the scenes with Boris Johnson sort of fetting Macron's handling of it all, and indeed then we saw the foreign minister of Iran arrived in. So in that regard, Macron sets the stage for a possible Rouhani-Trump meeting in New York. Hell of a diplomatic coup if he can pull it off. That's Dominic Waghorn of Sky News. Nikki Haley wasn't too impressed about that when it was first announced. She said it was manipulative of Macron to do this and very insincere, disrespectful. Well, actually, Donald Trump seemed to be okay about it in the end, and at the press conference today. Macron was asked directly, did you sort of keep Trump in the loop? And it seems that there was some sort of communication between the Americans and the French on this. But it is widely being seen as something that the French did pull off well diplomatically. Emmanuel Macron has been giving an interview to the French France 2 network this evening, where he spoke about this, saying, look, it's not a game of poker. It's the role of France to engage in mediations. And indeed, it does seem like a return to France's role during the Cold War, where it did have a key mediating role between the various powers.
Okay, well, we're going from Donald Trump to Jair Bolsonaro, Brazilian president. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, had some harsh words for him after some remarks he made about the French First Lady, Brigitte Macron.
Of course, the background to all of this is that the Amazon is burning, and the French president has been putting a lot of pressure on Bolsonaro, who has not been very happy about that. And we saw actually even environmentalists holding photos of the president upside down in a bid to say, stop the blah blah over the Amazon. Actually, we want real action here. So perhaps a little bit unfairly, because what we saw was a $20 million package being agreed upon by the leaders of the G7. So that's all by way of a background. Just very quick aside on that photo. I think this illustrates perfectly the extent to which Emmanuel Macron is very well thought of on the world stage, but has his problems at home. And indeed, the Biarritz summit, I think, very neatly summed that all up. Back to Bolsonaro, because what we saw, because he was irritated by all of this pressure over the Amazon, was somebody put on his official Facebook page a photo comparing Brigitte Macron with Bolsonaro's wife. And Bolsonaro replied to that comment saying, let's not humiliate him, ha, 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 ha. Now, basically across Brazilian social media, people were just horrified by that. That's one comment there saying, can you believe that this is a bloody president of a country?
Yeah, trash is the president of our country.
I think it's even harsher language than that. And others saying here, Bolsonaro, a guy published a misogynistic meme on Bolsonaro's Facebook page comparing the appearance of Brazil's First Lady with the French First Lady. The president of a nation did this. Now, actually, Emmanuel Macron commented on that, and he said that Brazilian women must be quite upset about this, that a president of their country would actually make remarks of this nature. So he did directly tackle that kind of rhetoric, and I think a lot of people were just completely appalled by the depths to which Jair Bolsonaro would sink in terms of trolling the First Lady of France.
Indeed, and staying with the First Ladies, Melania was gaining some traction online, specifically for her body language with Justin Trudeau.
Right. Now, this was a
Canada.
photo. This is a photo. And again, of course, you see a photo, you can freeze it. I suspect what was going on here, to be fair, was that they were mid-cheek kiss, and the camera caught her just as she was sweeping past Justin Trudeau's mouth. But she's smiling and her eyes are closed. So I think people thought that she was quite enjoying that moment with Donald Trump's eyes closed also there. So, a picture speaks 1,000 words, or maybe doesn't, maybe completely distorts a moment. But in any case, a lot of people commenting on that. This is Lonely Love saying Melania is ready to risk it all. This was some... Holly Figueroa O'Reilly of the Washington Post saying the only thing I got out of this press conference was that Melania likes French wine and Canadian wine too. Not sure that's a thing, but there you go.
might be a thing soon.
Right.
Now, we're moving on to Boris Johnson's debut at this round table. How did that go down on social media?
All right. Well, there was kind of a lot of comment about the videos don't seem to be launching very well today. But in any case, there was a lot of comment about him arriving. First of all, the optics. People felt that, the hair, and people felt that he seemed like an embarrassed fifth former on a work placement. This is when Donald Trump sort of patronised him, saying that this was a couple of days ago, saying, Donald, you're on message there. He said in response to the US president kind of fetting his role in Brexit. In any case, just very quickly, the Financial Times, Lionel Barber got some behind the scenes information saying, despite the Brexit Sturm und Drang, I hear Boris Johnson has been much more reasonable in private. Paris and Brussels are relieved, to say these, and mildly impressed. So apparently his diplomacy behind the scenes is going down well, according to the Financial Times take on things.
And certainly his presence, eclipsed by the larger issue of the Amazon. Thank you very much for that, James Creedon.